Hello, a very good morning to you, and thanks again for joining us. This time we're doing a talk on AM Talk, and we've been joined by the Deputy Minority Leader in Parliament, Dominic Nitawo, and thanks for joining us, sir. And also Alex Segbefia, former Deputy Chief of Staff, and thank you also for joining us. How was your celebration or your festive season?
Very pleasant, very prayerful, and glad that we are entered into the new year. Happy New Year to everybody on that matter.
Yes.
Roland, it's always good to enter a new year and be alive. It's by the blessings of the Almighty. So let me wish everyone a happy new year and a prosperous one, of course. And it feels good that we have moved to a new year peacefully as a country, and hope that, as always, the year coming will be better than the year before.
Okay. Thank God you're agreeing that last year was okay.
I don't believe.
But Parliament is sitting, so
yes, Parliament
would want to know why Parliament is sitting, and since you're a member of Parliament as well, I mean, that'll be more appropriate.
No, first of all, Parliament is agent Senate, and only the Speaker can recall Parliament. Okay. But the framers of our Constitution did something that many people believe is very good. That is to say that if members of Parliament, because they are representatives of the people, feel that there's something they want Parliament to look into it, then they can recall Parliament. You just need 15% of members of Parliament by the courtesy of Article 1123 to make a request to the Speaker of Parliament that we want Parliament to sit, and for this reason. The Speaker has no choice than to call Parliament. That article was activated by about 39% of members of Parliament in respect of the issue of the acquisition of Merchant Bank by Fortis Private Equity Limited, principally because a motion was submitted to that effect by me that we should invite certain people to the floor of Parliament to brief Parliament and answer questions regarding that particular deal. I think 2 weeks before Parliament went on recess, but the motion could not be taken. Of course, it has become even more of public importance, that particular issue. And I've always said that it's in the interest of one, the regulator, the Bank of Ghana, the buyers, Fortis, Private Equity Limited, then government itself, and ultimately SNIT, because they hold in trust our investments, every one of us, but because of our laws. And so it's in their interest for whatever transaction has gone place to come public and come clean, so that if it's good, we all move on with it, we would applaud them. If it's bad, then we can put a stop to it. At this stage, because of the workings of Parliament, it is not in our interest to impugn criminality to it or impugn bad motive. We just want the facts as they are. What are the facts? What are the sources of funds? Who are the directors? Who are the strategic investors behind? All this. Why has Merchant Bank moved from being the best bank in 2007 till now? Could Merchant Bank have done better if only their debtors had paid them? Why is it that their debtors have not paid them? Why is Messenger Bank on its knees up to now? So the motion is being moved by me on Monday to get Parliament to investigate this. That's basically what it is going to be. Investigate it. Now, it is now up to Parliament to determine the mode of investigation. Parliament can decide that, well, we are going to give it to a committee to do that. It could be Finance Committee. It could be Committee of the Whole. It could be an ad hoc committee that Parliament can decide that, well, we are setting this up to investigate it and come out. And they will invite many people. And then we can really open up the thing, get whatever it is, and then move on as a people. It's in our interest to do that.
You think that's appropriate as well, especially when we've had months of, even not weeks of, a lot more discussion on this very subject across the media space, and even government officials coming incessantly to have their own take on the subject?
Well, with regard to the Merchant Bank saga, I think that at the point where we've reached, it's appropriate for Parliament to also get involved. At the end of the day, everybody is involved. I find the issue I find with this whole thing is that for everything in Ghana, it takes on a political color, and a transaction which on the face of it needn't have taken on such a political color, it has. And therefore everybody who more or less was seen to speak on it was seen to either be this way or that way. And the main thrust or the arguments or the issues involved were lost in the mire of what is happening. So at any given time, one was never even sure what exactly is the situation. And I'm hoping that when it gets to Parliament, people will take off their political hats and just deal with the issues and look at it objectively. And then we will possibly at that stage get, or the members will get a clear picture of what has happened or what hasn't. As to whether or not they can look into it or not, that's a different aspect. But it will come to that. But that for me is the difficulty with the whole merchant ban saga at the moment. It has taken on too much of a political color, and I have my serious doubts whether Parliament is going to be able to divorce itself from this particular political color that has occurred. The greater problem for me with it is that while all this is going on, I suspect that merchant bank is suffering. And we have to understand that this is an institution, it's in the public eye, and but it relies on members of the public to grow or not, as the case may be. And when all this is said and done, it may be that the kind of damage that is done to the bank just by the public persona that is put on it may leave it in some difficulties, serious difficulties.
What do you mean by that? Is it by maybe taking a dig at this brand?
You can take a run on the bank. I mean, at the end of the day, people save their money there. If somebody decides that, look, I don't want to be in a bank where all this is going on, so please give me my money. You can imagine it happens elsewhere. Before, while we are talking about all the things that go on, we might not be having an entity to discuss anyway, because it would have collapsed, excuse me to say. So for me, it's important that this is dealt with timelessly. It should try and be dealt with in an objective fashion as possible, so that the bank does not suffer damage to the extent that because of politics we have played, we have worsened the situation. What seemed like a bad situation we have made worse.
It's politics, is it?
No, it's not. It can't be politics. I just told you that at this stage, nobody is impugning criminality, nobody is impugning this wrongdoings. We just want the facts that they are. And that's the approach Parliament will go. Parliament is not going to, I'm going to move that motion. I'm not going to move a motion with the background that, well, we have enough information. Parliament, even if they do, members will pretend they don't have enough information. They need information as they are, and then we'll deal with the facts. Now, from outside, it would appear the deal is contaminated with conflict of interest situations. The deal is contaminated.
By whose interpretation?
No, that's what I said from outside, even from an ordinary person's interpretation. You would want to look at it and say, why would Tony Lita be a lawyer to the highest debtor and a lawyer to the person who's also buying, And unfortunately, the president of the day, he happens to be the lawyer to the president of the day as well, who has the executive power to deal with some of these things.
Even during the election petition, he was his lawyer.
Yes, he was his lawyer.
Is it possible that perhaps that contract might have been terminated?
No,
or that relationship could have been terminated?
It could be. That's why I say it's unfortunate. If maybe, for example, he hadn't been, then maybe that anger wouldn't have come in. But he is. But I'm just saying that let's take the issues as they are, even devoid of politics, devoid of issues that were clouded. Let us look at the regulator. Do you have enough background? Did you do enough background checks on 40s, on all the strategic investors, where the resources are coming coming from as SNIT holders and as pension people who have contributed to pension, and SNIT is supposed to do a strategic intervention on our behalf. Is it the decision they have taken, is it good or is not good for us? Secondly, you do know the workers had some at the time they were selling to first round, for example, workers had some shares in that. Between that time and the new sale, workers had to sell their shares. There are too many things that has made the situation very murky, and it is important for Parliament to investigate all these aspects of it and come out clearly whether what is going on is right or is not right. But I support what he says, that if we cloud with politics, we might not be able to get to the bottom of it.
And you say currently it's not
going to be like that, because if you do that, first of all, the bank is even going to suffer even before, because our interest is not to make the bank suffer. That's the first thing. Secondly, our interest is not because we want to politicize the issue. In fact, like I said, it's in the interest, if Parliament is coming in at this stage, it's really an opportunity. I won't use the word. It is an opportunity for everyone involved to come very clean, so that people do not politicize. Otherwise, when people don't know facts, then what they do is to do propaganda, and that's very dangerous for the image of the bank.
And for you, and we're being told that at least 80 members of Parliament, right?
Yes, that's what I said. 39% of members of Parliament.
Without due respect to Parliament, what is Parliament going to find out that already is not in the public domain, and to what ends and purpose?
I think that you know very little about Merchant Bank. If we knew everything about the deal and about Merchant Bank, we will not. Parliament is.
Or you just want a formality to it?
No, not at all. Parliament will not get involved. If I were to ask you who are the strategic investors behind Fortis, you don't know. Do you? Obviously not. We know the owners of Fortis. We know it is a man and his wife and a Togolese national. That's the end of the story. We know a few directors of Fortis. The strategic investors, where the money is coming from, you don't know. The due diligence that has been done by the Bank of Ghana to be able to pass Fortis and say, well, they have enough resources and they have enough confidence from the public to be able to do business. You don't know. There are too many things that are murky that we need to find out. But let me also say something. If you remember what the court said, what the court actually said is that, well, by the law setting up SNIT itself, the individual SNIT contributors like you and myself may not have the right to be able to question the investment decisions of SNIT. But Parliament has that duty, because Parliament is a body that ultimately will have to make sure that the interest of the public is safeguarded. As long as it is a public interest matter, Parliament should step in.
And you think what is being done is a public interest activity?
It is even more than a public interest. Everybody agrees it's a public interest activity. And the courts themselves thought that Parliament should have come in at a certain stage to be able to calm nerves and make sure that the facts come out. That's why I said it's an opportunity for the facts to come out so that we all calm nerves. If the facts are not right, if the
you mean calm nerves in Parliament? Because
not just in Parliament.
You see, all these things you're saying have played out in the public gallery. And so now, as you make your contribution to that, I want us also to talk on the subject. Would it be wrong if somebody, or let's say an entity, is not into a certain business but want to diversify and not necessarily into its core business, into another state of business? Would it be wrong at all? Because for example, I know Royal Bank, for example, is owned by somebody who has a vast experience in haulage.
But Fortis has never done any business.
Yes, so you don't have to do any business. It
has never done it. This is the first business.
Your contribution on the subject, sir?
I think that this is my concern with. I hear my colleague clearly. I see where he's going or what they are trying to achieve, but everybody has to be careful, especially Parliament at this stage, in what it says publicly. The reason I say that is this: conflict has been mentioned, conflict of interest. We are in a professional environment. People have professions. My doctor today might also be the doctor for President Kufuor. If I have an illness and I'm not getting better, can somebody immediately impute that he's being influenced by
not to treat you well.
Not to treat me well. Because you're in a professional environment. Lawyers have their clientele, some on retainers, some for a particular event and no more. Till such time that the facts are looked at by Parliament, my hope is that they shouldn't even mention conflict at this stage. Because, as he said, they are going to investigate the facts. And it may come out that there is absolutely no conflict. Or there may have been a fear of conflict. Somebody may have recused himself from certain aspects or not. We do not know this. So if you do not, to say that because the public are discussing it, you have some concern that there has been conflict or no conflict, it's not the way forward for me. What is clear is that there are issues that people have difficulties with. Let not the parliamentarians begin to, when they go on the floor and they put forward their formal document or whatever it is, they lay their motion as to what, then they can outline these things.
Okay.
But if they want to really be in an objective setting, let them just go for the bare facts of the transaction as it is. If from that, the bare facts that come out, other questions then arise before them, they can then begin to say, well, we are not happy with A, B, or C, so we must look at this. Because at the moment, the fact that a lawyer has worked for a person before in a particular public profile issue does not of itself mean...
Well, professionally.
Professionally.
But in an environment where the connections are just too much to assume.
That is the politics. Let's find out whether that actually exists.
You said that is the politics?
Yes, because it is not clear that there is a reason why the president happens to have...
Well, that very lawyer perhaps has so much knowledge on a lot of these subjects, and the connections and are just
but
too much for people not to think about or assume.
The question is, what is the... You know, a lot of these things are public. What is the connection with the president? I mean, I've even heard people questioning why was the president petitioned and so on and so forth. Even in, you know, not in our environment, but for me, it's, the way people sound make it seem as if it is strange. In the UK, for example, the Prime Minister is an MP. He has constituents.
We know that, yes.
They petition him every day. They petition him every day because he represents them. And he has people who look at, if there's something he has to forward to a particular department, it's forwarded.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yes, so
but so too, if there are people within the Parliament of the UK who have difficulty with whatever transaction, yes.
So
and he can come before the House and do some explanation.
That is why I'm saying that. Let us take it up. Things may come out, and let me say from onset that you watch that, you will notice that I'm couching my language very carefully. I'm not here to defend anybody. I'm not here to say that no, that's not my business here. My business is that I think we have one good opportunity to take the politics out of it and deal with the facts and the issues.
But you seem to be having some level of anxiety that with the current steps that are being taken,
yes,
we're heading into political doldrums.
But that's why I'm saying, and he's here, and he is going to be one put in the position. They should really make a strong effort to get on the objective plane. And that way, looking at rules, regulations, what can be done legally, what cannot be, and so on and so forth. So that they do not get into the politics which is already in the public domain. And if Parliament is able to do that and then come out with an objective, report or decision at the end of it, it is more, even though people will still try and do their politics with it, it is more likely to be swallowed or accepted once it is dealt with.
So you're all for it?
I don't have a problem.
What has taken Parliament so long?
Okay. You know, one thing, I already told you that motion had been there
before
you. Let's say like more than a month now.
Okay.
The motion had been on the floor. It's just that it was not admitted. But the members who signed to read for the recall of Parliament felt strongly that we needed to do it first in this year. That's why it's taking them to recall Parliament as they've done. But I just wanted to tell you something. Parliament, by the way Parliament works, it will be difficult to do politics. You know why? Let me give you...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it will be very difficult to do politics.
We have minority majority.
No,
there's always political banter between the two of you.
I'll tell you that the way this motion is and the way the steps that will be taken, it will be very difficult to do politics. So the public should be assured that his fears will not come to pass. One is that even the motion I am going to move, we are just moving a motion for Parliament to investigate the circumstances surrounding the acquisition. It is up to Parliament to take the decision whether they are going to do that or not. At the movement of the motion, you can't do anything. You are just asking that you don't have the facts and you need the facts. When that motion has been accepted by Parliament, then Parliament would either refer it to a committee or it would set up an ad hoc committee. The committees are of three kinds. Or it could be ad hoc committee that's selecting some particular members to do that, or to the finance committee, which has a duty to be able to do some of these things by our parliamentary regulations, the orders, or they will do what we call a committee of the whole, that every member of Parliament gets involved. Now, at that stage, they will begin to invite or come on brand from the public. They would invite the Bank of Ghana to come and brief them with all their documents. They would invite the board and the director of
And you said this is not politics.
No, but how is it going to be politics? How is it going to be politics? You are just asking questions.
By your experience, how many weeks is it going to take Parliament to get whatever information that the over 80 MPs or 80 MPs need?
Parliament can decide that we're giving you 1 week. Parliament can decide we're giving you 2 weeks. Parliament can decide we're giving you 1 month. It depends on the decision that is taken by Parliament. Okay. That decision will be taken by Parliament. Right. And that's why I say it's difficult to do politics, because it's going to be a parliamentary group, just like what happened. People are going to come and you ask questions, and at the end of the day, the clerk to that committee will write a report, and that the report will be debated on the floor of Parliament. But especially when we come back. So if Parliament agrees, that's what's going to happen. Okay. It's a process.
Chief, you are aware that, and this is my next concern, or the second point I raised. Whatever Parliament wishes to do or not do, they have to take into account that by virtue of any action they take, does it amount to a quasi-estoppel on the actions or inactions of whatever transaction is going on at the moment? Because is the finalization of the acquisition or whatever going to be put on hold pending this parliamentary inquiry, which doesn't have a time limit at the moment as we speak? What is the effect going to be on the bank while that is going on?
Because I was just about to ask him that also.
That is my, and I'm not saying that the concerns they raise are not genuine. You don't want to do the whole trial and then find out that there were things that were wrong with it. Fine. But then it then goes to the question as to whether Parliament, and he is laying the motion, Parliament should have the power or should be looking into this matter at this stage, bearing in mind that if it doesn't stop the activities going on, at the end of the report, does it become a moot point? In other words, it's already a done deal. So why are we looking into this matter? If it is just for the fact that they cannot reverse it, but they can point out issues that are an advisory thing, that's different. But my concern is that what is going to happen to the bank? And I'm not yet, if something is wrong with the transaction, please, by all means, let it be dealt with and brought to a halt. But if they go through this whole process, and at the end of the day, it is, well, we wanted more transparency, but there's nothing wrong with it, and your bank has collapsed in the meantime, then, so it's a double-edged sword. That's all I'm saying. Let us, time is very important.
Because I was just about to ask about the issue of the state of the bank, and whether Parliament, with all the interest that it has in making sure whatever undertaking is done on behalf of the state is done appropriately, is concerned with the state of the bank, with its daily business activities and what the progress should be for the bank.
I think the Parliament is more concerned with the state of the bank. That's why Parliament is stepping in. Or Parliament wants to step in, or some members think the Parliament should step in. You see, if the trade unions and the general public has a problem with the way things went, that's why I say that an opportunity needed to be, or needs to be created for all those who are involved in that to come clean. Because trust me, a bank is essentially thriving depending on the confidence of the general public. If people don't put their resources there or they try not to do business, that bank will collapse anyway. There's nothing you'll be able to do. You need to be able to get the confidence of people to do that. If all the people that we have seen who have raised their voices against what is going on, the trade unions have raised their voices what is going on, it is up to Parliament to create that opportunity for all of us to come clean on it. And so Parliament is very much aware, or will be very much aware, or take into consideration the state of the bank in dealing with whatever. And for that matter, I can assure you, Parliament is not going to give itself 3, 4, 5 months, and then at the end, its activities will rather affect the bank. But I can also assure you something, that if the deal is not that is in the interest of the general public, Parliament will call for a stop to it. Because you remember the Bank of Ghana is when Fortis came out to say, well, we have acquired the Bank of Ghana says, wait a bit, the process have not been finished. As we are aware, we know the process have not been finished. And it not even have been in the interest of the Bank of Ghana for a case to have been in court for the Bank of Ghana to rush and say, we have finished with the deal. What will be the need for the rush? What is it that you are hiding and you want to rush and make sure that the deal is tied up, even though the case had been in court at that particular time? So after that one, I think that the Parliament is rather giving them the opportunity. I use the word opportunity for them to be able to do that. But we surely will not do anything that will affect the bank. But I can tell you something, that there are different scenarios that will be presented to Parliament. And many people who have facts about it will come clean on these matters.
Okay.
And whatever decisions that SNIT took in the interest of the public will be something that will guide them in future. Because you know something, at this stage of our nation building, whatever we do is a guide for the future. So that tomorrow I do not sit in an office and think that I can do anything I want.
You have an overriding power or authority to take whatever decision.
That's the end of the story.
Okay.
So as a people, America has built its democracy over the years by what they do and conventions that they take. Some of these things that we are doing, we should not just think that it's just for the sake of it, but we are building our democracy. And as we are building the state institutions, I believe that ultimately it will be in the interest and the benefit of this nation for what is happening.
Well, good defense of the action you're about to take. And we say that if it's all for the best, then it's all for the best. Now, the president, well, he had a very concise New Year message for Ghanaians. What do you make of the message in the first place? I have to start with you, Mr. Alex Egbefia.
Well, I think it was appropriate he spoke to the nation. It's been quite a challenging year. We spent 8 months of the year in court, where during that period government business still had to go on. Certain things had been delayed. The whole economy of the country was affected to a certain extent. Other issues have cropped up, many challenges throughout the year with the gas pipeline. We've had some successes across the way, and those successes should be augmented. One, mainly that we are still a peaceful country, notwithstanding everything else that has happened. So I think the New Year message was one of thanking Ghanaians for where we have gotten to so far, and to try and instill hope that, look, the future is brighter as long as we stick together and work towards a brighter future.
First of all, it's not something that is new. It's something that has been happening all over. So I expected it, and I'm glad that he did it. It's just that some people expected more. It was rather too short for some people.
Your summing opinion you have around
that. Okay. It was rather a bit too short. Some people expected more, especially because of the difficulties that we had, real difficulties. He used the word, he's very charitable by using the word challenging, but seriously, there were real difficulties in 2013. Not because we didn't get resources. I can tell you the resources that came to this nation from our own internal resources. I'm not talking about outside, but what we as a people were able to gather was more than 2012. Really, our tax revenue was higher than 2012. So it is not because we didn't have resources that maybe somebody's trying to blame another person and say, because of you, we have. No, not at all. But there were real challenges, and how the structure and what people were supposed to do, what people were not supposed to do.
But those have been explained.
I
I think going on that very trajectory is an overflogged issue, especially when we're being told, and Parliament and you as members have also accepted that how much is raised and how much is used for implementation of a certain policy. And we're talking about single spine pay policy.
No, you're not. I'm not even going towards that angle about how much was raised and how much.
No, you're talking about revenue, and that is why I'm also
I was just saying that. I was just saying that there were difficulties, but the difficulties were not as a result of the fact that we didn't perform as a nation in terms of raising revenue, but the difficulties were how we spent it. Whether we spend it on single spine, we spend it on projects, or how we spent it. So the president needed to give people serious hope. He tried it. But that's why I use the word that some people expected maybe
you were not convinced from your posture.
It's not about convincing me. It's about giving me hope and moving along with him.
He didn't give you that indication.
No, he did not go into that. He didn't go into that. So that I can buy into his vision and hope that whatever happened in 2013 will be far, far, far less than what will happen in terms of the suffering of the people in 2012 and 2014. That 2014 will be a much better year. He said it. He said for him things that 2014 will be a much better year. It's just that, like I said, some people needed some bit of, expansion,
more hope and encouragement.
Give people encouragement. Let people know that, well, I am there. I am the man in charge. I am the man you gave the mandate to. I will drive you well. You have hope in me. That kind of thing. But I all in all, it's good. It's good if a president is speaking to a nation. It's good. It galvanizes the nation. It makes the nation sit up and make people have believed that yes, the year coming is good. And there's nothing wrong with it if it's been done. In fact, for me, even if half yearly you make those calls, I don't think that there's any problem with that.
Oh, you're sounding patriotic this morning. Well, but that's good.
No,
but
it's not about being patriotic. It's not.
Do I get the supposition that from you, you have the anxiety that the president and his government may not even be spending whatever will be earned the next year very well, or this very year very well?
I wouldn't want to judge them, but if I were to judge them on last year, then I'll have my doubts, and I will agree with what you said that I'll have my serious doubts.
No, I asked a question. I didn't pose it a stance. So
but I'm saying that for between now and 31st December 2014. They have not even started, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and leave that. But if I were to judge them on 2013, I would say no, I have my doubts whether things will go very well. But they have not started. They are yet. I've looked at the budget. They brought their budget. We saw a budget before things didn't go well. Let's just hope that 2014 will not be a replica of 2013 because that would be very disastrous.
Well, Mr. Sagba, if you're going by that and the comments that have followed the president's address to the nation, of course, it's not a State of the Nation address. It's just an end-of-year message, so to speak. There seems to be no hope in the president.
No, I think that my colleagues' statements are slightly premature. Because actually the year 2013, what was spent, how it was spent, we don't have the detail yet. Most of the fears and issues that have been raised were things that happened.
Well, he has concerns. If it has been,
we don't have
he
all
believes
the
that if
detail.
it is spent well, it should be there for all to see.
In
budget preparation, budget hearing, when you bring a budget, you have to justify what happened the preceding year before. So Parliament, we do.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that a lot of the activities which raised a lot of clamor or are being looked at, being investigated, are things that happened in 2012, which came into 2013. But the actual 2013, what happened in 2013 was that even if we were expecting to make 12 and we made 13, it is clear that had we not had the court case, we would have made 15. This is the point I'm making. We lost a lot of foreign direct investment or issues that we could have dealt with because a lot of people sat back.
Is that an assumption or it's scientific?
It's a reality.
It's a reality.
Look at what came out for the first, second, and third quarters
from the GIPC reports.
Yes, look, it's a reality, and it is true that we had a lot of capital flight also from the country. and it has not all necessarily returned, which can explain partially, not completely, but partially, why we have a run on the cedi, or we had the depreciation of the cedi at the rate at which it had been going or is going. So there are lots of things which the cause and effect. You try to look at why we are where we are based on what has happened in 2013. And I believe that economically what we could have done, and the court case I look at as a positive because of rule of law, because of good governance, and because
but economically it's a setback.
Economically we suffered for it.
It's a setback.
Yes.
Now in going forward and looking at 2014,
the indicators don't show that we suffered for it. The indicators show that tax-wise we performed better than 2012. So if somebody says we suffered for economically, maybe from some other source, but in terms of tax revenue,
but he's talking about investments and capital flight and those indices have direct have direct input into, let's say, employment creation, in setting up of new businesses, etc.
If you take the statistics, rather it's wrong. What he's saying is not correct. In terms of foreign direct investment, it's increased. It's gone above the 2012 figures. Maybe he's trying to say that, well, it could have been far better.
Yes.
That's what he's trying to say. But that is very debatable.
Very exponential.
No, but that's very, very debatable. Very debatable. I'm saying that those figures are better than 2012. So if it had been the court case, then it should have been lower. If it were lower than 2012, you can say, well, even in 2012, this is what we got. But 2030, it was lower.
But that's a relative assumption, don't you think?
You are assuming, but you are not able to prove. I will not sit here and look, tax revenue were higher, FDI, foreign direct investments were higher, okay? And you got more loans, even in spite of that.
Well, you could still get increments.
You were attracted enough to even get more loans.
Do you agree that you could still, in setting up targets, or in putting together targets, you could still make positive inroads, but still not meet your target?
I understand. Let me tell you, what were the targets? Let me tell you something, that when the government was, for example, giving us the budget, they were happy and praising themselves that we had done far better than people thought we would be. When there is a court case, there are two behaviors you can put forward. Either you will perform very well for people to have confidence on you, or you sit down and fold your hands and say, well, because of the court case, I'm not going to perform. It is up to you to take that. If I were NDC at that time, that's even when I'll perform far better for people to say, yes, these are the guys, we really made a good decision. But if they want to put it on the court case, that's up to them.
You see, I think that the point I'm making is that it had an effect. And I think that once we go further down the year and all the figures begin to come out, it will be clear that the point I'm making about the economic negative effect of the court case will come out. But I mean, it's not something I want to necessarily dwell on too much at this stage.
Okay, now I have some comments on Facebook. Eliasu Haruna Tamale says the president's speech was uninspiring, full of rhetorics. We're tired of the sweet tongues. We need action, real action. We can trust him when he goes for our money paid into wrong hands and all that. Please keep your comments savory, and then we can read some of them for you as well. Ayariga Sonia, I wish the president well and hope all saboteurs will be identified and sacked so that the Better Ghana agenda will be truly felt. Ghana can only develop when our leaders commit themselves to the Lord. Benasco Kwamina Abansaki sounding very religious this morning and very inspirational and hopeful. But President GM must whip up his ministers in line with his agenda. Wish him well, and that's for Imoro Abdul Razak. Now, Mr. Sebefia, if the president comes to give all the best well-wishing messages to Ghanaians, and perhaps there's a feeling among a section of the population that, well, they are not getting better value for their money. Priorities of government are not right, and perhaps the president is not fighting corruption as it is perceived among the population as they would wish. Should there be that anxiety going into the next year?
Well, I'm glad you said a section of the public. At the end of the
opinion
day,
is always segmented.
Exactly.
Really.
So for me, at the end of the day, what I find sometimes happens And I'm not saying that it is wrong, but to the extent to which it goes, look, the president has a 4-year mandate. Technically, he's been president since January the 7th when he was sworn in.
Okay.
But that was even being challenged up to August. We are now 4 months from August, technically. We are in January.
So you're saying that he started his reign from August?
I'm not saying that.
Of course.
I'm saying that it had an effect. Whether people like it or not, this is my view. And it's carried by a lot of people. And he's not exclusive to that. It happened to President Mills. It happened to President Kufuor. People will judge you from day one. After first year, oh, we're expecting this. When actually you have a 4-year mandate. So he's now putting into effect his plans, his policies. Things are, and he is hopeful, along with the party to which he belongs, that by 2014, 2015, people would have seen that things that have been put in place will begin to bear the fruit that is expected. But in terms of when you're in a leadership position, you can look at things as short-term gain, medium-term, and long-term. And when you're in that position, you really have to be clear in your mind as to when you're going to be made accountable for your mandate, but without losing the national interest in the process. So, yes, there are always going to be people who will expect that, oh, we expect this and that. And as I said, it has been quite a challenging year for the government.
The gentleman Nitawol says that you're being charitable with the word challenging.
Well, I don't like, you see,
even on page 10, in a feature of the Daily Graphic, they used 2013 was a challenging year. I don't know whether you borrowed that phrase from them.
No, but I think it is good language, because we are there to solve problems. So problems, if you say there were problems, or there were this, yes, that is what a government is there for. But if those problems take you to a certain extent, then the word is that they were challenging. You were challenged, but you have been able to live up to the challenge. And I don't even put the challenge as one of government. It was a Ghanaian challenge, and I think that Ghana has lived up to it. There are little facets of things that have happened over the year which I don't think we give ourselves credit for. From time immemorial, we have tried throughout the years to bring peace into our system. So when you have a situation where we are now in the country where, if, for example, the South African president comes, President Rawlings attends, so does President Kufuor, and they're able to meet with him. Then you have at the inauguration, notwithstanding the call on President Kufuor not to attend, President Kufuor looks at the national interest, attends.
Well, we do understand when they talk about the congregation of the calls for unity and patriotism, etc. Especially in the last couple of weeks, by the president and his team, including you. But is that what provides jobs?
Please. If this country,
is that what increases revenue?
I won't allow you to diminish it. The reason why I won't is that when you don't have that peace, we will not even be talking about jobs.
Well,
so it is important that we, first of all, and I'm doing it in January and the latter part of December, because I think that we are very quick. We will spend the next 11 months doing all the critique and knocking ourselves and saying this hasn't been done. Fine. But let's spend some little time giving ourselves some credit for what we have been able to achieve as a people. And for me, as I'm saying, the things that we have done that have made sure that the peace we are looking for exists as today. Let us not just say it and just leave it. It is very good. It has been done. As a people, we have survived the tension, and there were real tensions. Real tensions during this whole issue.
What was the real tension?
Well, I think that there was tension.
Okay.
People.
Great anxiety.
No, people. Yes, great
people
anxiety.
Didn't know where.
People expected worse.
Okay.
But ultimately, the main.
So that is why the president and his team, including Mr. Alessegbefi, are saying that we should be thankful for the little mercies.
But the president should be candid enough to give credit to where it's due. You see, the people who felt hurt the more were those who could have caused problems.
Hurt over what?
No, over the years. Let's take the case of the election petition, for example, or the whole election.
Well, hurt over what?
No, the outcome. the outcome of the elections, the outcome of the courts. There are people who are even hurt more. You know, they are the people who should, though all of us should be applauded, they should be applauded loudest.
Why?
That's the reason why people didn't understand why many people, whether within this country or outside the country, went out to thank Nana Akufo-Addo, both in his house and outside his house. You know, some people tried to say, well, he doesn't deserve it, but I can tell you that people ignored it and went ahead to do it for a reason, because he was hurt more, he was hurt most. And in many countries where people had the opportunities he had, they took a different route.
You could have been a recipe for another.
So I accepted that, yes, that piece. But then, of course, give praise where it's supposed to be, and then we'll move on as.
But I never said it was a government thing.
No, I didn't. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking of you. I'm not using. When I say you, I'm not talking of you. But I think that as a country, we should be thankful to ourselves. If you were to go out and listen to what people say about this country, even if we don't have anything, you'll be happy.
Okay. So why the criticism then?
Oh, the criticism is not about the fact that you and myself, all of us, played a part to get where we are. But then we have a government that is expected to improve our lives. You and myself, it's a different ball game altogether.
Okay. So the peace aside, the government needs to get its job or its act together.
The government
and the president said that so far what has been done, people were even underestimating what could have been done.
It means the president, his targets are different from the targets of the ordinary Ghanaian. Let me tell you something. You see, there was a text message you didn't read. I saw it on the screen.
Okay. Well, once it's there, I'm sure people read it. I may not have read it, but that's why it's TV. You're supposed to see and read yourself.
It had something that the word vampire, and he said the president should kick out vampires or something. It was about come and then you stopped it. I can tell you that.
Yeah, because you know some of the messages you just can't.
No, I understand. Yeah. I didn't read
I don't know.
But I tell
think
you,
talking about personalities and saying they are vampires.
Good. No, but he captured the mood of many people, and that's why at the SMP Festival, the former president was telling the current president should take out some people and bring out some people into government. I can tell you that word vampires may be too strong, but I can tell you that the corruption allegations against this government has been unprecedented.
What do you mean by unprecedented?
We've never had a government that within 1 year, people have brought us so many corruption allegations against individuals within and outside government. It's never, let anybody tell me that what I'm saying.
Well, we have bodies set up to undertake investigations, and indeed they're doing a lot more work, and some have even come out with consequently what the follow-up progress is.
No, I don't have a problem with that, but you should be worried if you are a government.
Who should be worried? The people of Ghana?
I say if you are a government,
Ghanaians?
If you are a government, you should be very much worried that things like that are happening. You should be very, very worried that things like that are happening. You have to deal with them. That within your first 12 months, the allegations about corruption and corrupt deals have overwhelmed you such that even your first term, or when he was even vice president, those things had not been like that. That's a fact. So I'm saying that he has a lot on his plate. He has. I don't wish to be in his situation. He has a lot.
You don't wish to be in his shoes currently.
No, not at all. He has a lot on his plate, and
that's sarcasm, right?
No, it's not sarcasm. I'm just being frank. And he needs to prove. He needs to do a lot more to prove to the people of this nation that yes, I can do it. It's not just about.
Okay.
It's not about the peace.
In his speech,
can I just say that?
Okay.
Just on one statement. You know, history has a way of sometimes repeating itself. In 2005, what wasn't Kufuor being accused of? And by the time we got into 2006, wasn't it a roller coaster of this allegation against that allegation? So when you make a statement that never in the history of Ghana has any president been in 1 year, that I disagree with. Corruption allegations, and that the word he uses is very important. Allegations are the milk and bread and butter of the political.
But he said they are unprecedented.
Well, I'm saying that it's not.
I'm surprised you are disagreeing.
The president
I use the word that within 1 year, the corruption allegations are so many. You know, there are so many. Almost every week, something was coming out. from every part of the
but I asked the question that the president has set up bodies to even investigate some of these issues that have come up in the public space. But in his speech, he said infrastructural projects were ongoing, and indeed we have. You are in Parliament. You approve the loans all the time, and the concern has been, and the criticism has been that the government borrows a lot more than it usually should, and so debt servicing is high.
It's giving us a problem. You see, in 2006,
but these monies are used for massive infrastructural projects. You see, and they don't come in a space of a month or two in completion. It takes some time.
No, I understand, but I can tell you that in economic terms, we are really giving ourselves a problem. You see, in economic terms, seriously, because we did redenomination and then we had to change the structure of our economy, we think that that's the end of the day. But I can tell you that the people who will be in power between 2020 and 2030 will really suffer trying to pay back all these loans.
Why? Which party will be there? If you predict,
I don't know. I don't know. But I just hope the NDC is not in power, because if they continue with the rate in which they are,
if the NDC is in power between 2020 and 2030,
I didn't say that. I said I just hope the NDC is not in power, because if they continue with the rate at which they are continuing, one day this nation will be on its knees. You can see. I'll give you one example. Yeah. The government just went in for a €1 billion euro bond loan. Trust me, they have not used those resources, as we said today, in executing the projects they want to execute. And in this budget, there's another 1 billion, aside other monies that they are picking for infrastructure, the same infrastructure funds or the same infrastructure development. We are choking ourselves with debt.
But those are itemized,
no,
for specific.
It's not about being itemized.
Priorities. Right?
It's not about being itemized. I'm saying we are choking ourselves with debt. Debts that we don't need to. The Chinese 3 billion loan that we said was not necessary at that particular time. 4 years down the line, how much have we gotten out of the Chinese? The money is still sitting in China. We are paying interest on it. Okay, the money is sitting in China. The Chinese are taking the revenue, the oil. They are lifting the oil that 13,000 barrels per day that we signed for. They are lifting it, and the money is sitting in China. If the money, for example, were sitting in our banks, I would have said that that's a brilliant bullshot that we gave. But the money is sitting in China. The Chinese have not released how much. They've released less than 1 billion. The rest is sitting in China, because what they released was to the oil, the gas project, which for me is a very good project. That one, if you say it's not, I would disagree with you. But the rest of the money is sitting in China there. Okay, that is what we are saying. That if the government had just listened to the opposition to say that within that period, okay, if within the period that this money is sitting in China, if we had decided to be selling our own or edition on even on the open market, what the Chinese are lifting, would have had more money than we are getting now. Okay, that's what we are saying, that if you are a government, it's not just about borrowing, but you must ensure that when you borrow the money, you use it and use it effectively. Give Ghana, as a state, give us 1 billion. I'm sure we'll not be able to use all the money at the end of the year. Give us $1 billion cash and say use it. I can tell you that our structures are set, the bureaucracy is such that if we don't break it down, we are not able to use even half of that money at the end of the year. And that's what is happening.
There is still our money, though.
I know, but it's wrong. The money is sitting there, it's not sitting in our banks.
If the money is sitting there,
it's only capital flow. You just have to wire the money,
which it is. Then we haven't borrowed the money. It's not yet. We haven't used it.
But we're paying interest on them, and that's a fact.
No, they are paying interest not on the full 3 billion.
Of course,
it's a transactional thing. So we have taken some. We are paying. You cannot not pay interest on what you have taken, but you cannot begin to talk about that.
But you are repaying the decision by giving oil out.
Yes,
but that is that commitment.
Because it's part of the agreement.
If you take more of the loan, you take out more oil.
No, you don't. You don't. Well, the 13,000 barrels is standard.
But we have, yes, but at the end of the day, the way the contract is signed, you have taken enough. What we are giving them has not reached what we have taken. And you see, for me, I have never had a problem with loans so long as the loans are commercially based.
Meaning?
If you are going to put the loan in something that will generate income tomorrow to pay off that loan, Fine.
And according to the president, that's the direction we're going?
Yes, infrastructural projects.
Well, we've had economists coming to sound the warning bells.
Well, yes, I don't have a problem. You cannot, what's it called, have your gearing such that you put yourself in a position where you cannot even service the debt because of the amount of loan you have taken. That is the point where but if you're in a position to service it, and you take out money to put in a project, which by virtue of that project, like for example, he himself has admitted that he has no problem with the gas issue. Because when we start selling the gas, that very gas we are selling will pay off part or the loan that we have taken to build the gas plant over a certain period. So it is not for me. When you take a loan and you use that loan to build a school or a hospital.
That's beneficial.
No, not necessarily. Why? Because it's a social intervention in the short term. The school, yes, education-wise, in the long term, you will get out people who, but you will not see it in financial return. In the whole picture, yes. The hospital, the same. People will go to the NHI, but you don't get that money immediate. So government must make sure it finds a way within its own resources and budget to this thing. It's also important when we're talking about the budget. No matter what your revenue is, if you have budgeted that by virtue of the position you hold as a government, you are going to get so much grants, monies from A, B, and C. But you are not in a position to raise enough money, for example, to deal with the counterpart funding for those grants to come in. And you're not able to access the grants, or for whatever reason, those grants never arise, then your budget is thrown out of sync. And we know this. I mean, he's in Parliament. That it doesn't matter if you budgeted on 10 and you got 12, but your whole budget actually was for 20. In the hope that other things were going to come. And those 8 never came, or only 4.
And we've had those experiences over
and
the last...
they've had it themselves.
That's true. That's true.
They've had it, and we've had it. So,
Roland,
you know, when...
I just wanted to ask two things.
You're asking who, me or him?
I will ask one and then you the second one. First of all, Alex, I think that he can't tell me that he's not concerned about the quantum of loans that the NDC under the late Professor Mills, may he so rest in peace, and the current president have taken over the 5 years that they have been in power. It's so... It's not,
are you worried that the loans are misused or misapplied?
Roland, I am worried because
or you think it's just the portfolio?
No, the quantum of development vis-a-vis the loan should have been huge. We are not seeing that. That's what people ask that. Are you take close to $20 billion? Where are the projects? Where are the projects? Now, the second thing I wanted to tell you is that, look, in 2000, the highest internal revenue generated by the MPP was in 2008, 5.6 billion Ghana cedi. 5.6 billion Ghana cedi. That's been the highest. The rest was 4.3, 4.2, 2.1. Even one was even less than 2 billion. That was 2001. But the highest was 5.6 billion Ghana cedi. Do you know the highest we've taken so far? Is even this year. We are close to 16 billion for 1 year. 16 billion Ghana cedi for 1 year. So I am saying that it's not for lack of resources. No, not at all. Of course, we understand that the expenditure is also huge. Single spine alone is sitting 10 billion. We understand that the expenditure is also huge. But I'm saying that government itself must begin to find out the leakages. The leakages are also huge, and that is the worst. That's the biggest problem. That's why the Auditor General was saying that 4.5 billion was just leaked into the system. It's like using a sieve to fetch water and it's just leaking. 4.5
so we
billion.
Need to tighten. Now, you know Imani Ghana. That's why they've been raising or making the supposition more recently, I think, in the media and also in their recent publications, that perhaps we need a national administrator. Have you heard about that?
No.
They suggested 3 people, Kumbo, Martina Midu, and Tony Edu.
Some kind of an ombudsman. Yeah. And who will get a grip on all these, and especially these personalities, these strong people can never be.
What would the power of the ombudsman? Well, is he going to be more powerful than the minister? What exactly are his powers? That's why I would like to see what the proposal is before I even begin to comment. It sounds all well and good. We always have checks and balances. Part of the problem with this whole system, and this is nothing to do with one, is that there are some things that you actually need serious cultural change and serious strengthening of our infrastructure base. And I'm not talking of buildings when I talk about infrastructure. Institutional infrastructure. And each time efforts are being made. If you look at our court system, say 15 years ago, it has changed considerably from then to now, but not sufficiently. So you will hope that the changes are ongoing.
It should be drastic.
Yes, well, as drastic as it can be. But sometimes you have to know how to rock the apple cart. If you look at our police force, you remember there was a time even when President Kufuor had to bring in vehicles at the beginning of 2000 and this thing, he had to get about 1 million. And the
early part of his administration.
Yes, very early. Now there are vehicles left, right, and center. Our fire service people have equipment. So things have improved, but by virtue of those type of improvements, you find that other questions arise. This is why I use the word challenges. And sometimes we have to take a backseat. We've never had as many fires as we did, for example, at the beginning of this year. Yet we've had more at the beginning of last year. I keep forgetting 2014. At the beginning of last year, so much controversy. Yet we've had the ability to fight these fires because we've had the fire tenders and the fire services is better equipped than it ever has been. So the kind of equipment the army has to deal with security at on the oil rigs, to deal with the coastline, etc., etc. Lot of the money. If people sit in Accra and sometimes want to say that, we can't see this thing, the money is there. We've never had a situation where our security agencies talk about salaries for people, single spy. So you can actually, if you want to look closely and see where the money has gone, you can find it. You only have to look at Independence Day parade when they come with all the equipment from the various.
Now that's just one side.
No, but I'm saying that it's expenditure. I mean, how do you?
But the fire service and the police.
Doesn't it then talk about priority spending?
The fire service and the police, particularly, I mean, it's just a fraction of the borrowing. It's the police and the fire service receive less than 1 billion in sum total over the period that we are talking about. We all know where the huge sums were supposed to have gone. But you don't see those projects. That's what we are asking. That where are the projects?
But this was the same accusation you gave against President Mills.
No, we are not saying.
You remember when and President Mills said, "Look, I'll go on a tour." That is what actually sparked the regional tour when under President Mills. And as we went from region to region, and we started seeing the schools,
and showing them on TV. Well, it was described as politics and propaganda.
No, but it came from the opposition saying that we have done nothing. Where is the money? This is the same accusation.
No, but the problem you don't get,
and that is where we started. We
apart from Fidelity Bank, let me tell you, apart from Fidelity Bank, where government brought, I think about less than 100 million for us to build schools. All school infrastructure are financed locally through GET funds, and then through budgetary allocation. We have never borrowed money substantially to come and build schools. So if you are cutting salt for school, it is not the money you borrowed. If you are cutting salt for boreholes, it's not money that you borrowed. If you are cutting source for those internally generated funds projects, you are not. We are talking about huge sums of money that you borrowed for projects. That's what we are asking. You can be cutting source for school. We don't say that.
Okay. Well,
but then there were the 3 classroom block, the 6 classroom block, the schools that you are cutting is GET fund projects. Okay. And they are internal projects.
Mr. Little, what do you think about this whole thing about having an ombudsman or administrator, so to speak? And you know, the suggestion of Imani Ghana, as wild as people may think it is, it could be real if it's
you see, the problem we have in Ghana that we are complaining is bureaucracy. I just hope that we're not going to create.
And he's talking about a cultural change.
Good. I just hope that we're not going to create a bigger bureaucracy and then we sit down and then hang it around our neck and we don't know what to do.
Okay.
We just need to task people to perform. If President Mahama says, "This man, I want to make a minister," give him a duty and let him perform. If he doesn't perform within the performance contract, take him out and bring Roland there. Let Roland perform. We'll get somebody who will perform. If you have a president and the man is not performing, take him out. Okay. Bring somebody there.
Right.
Otherwise,
okay.
we'll create more bureaucracy.
We'll have 5 minutes to touch on some issues quickly.
Can I just make a point, which is very important? While I agree that the leadership of any institution, it's down to the Minister of State in that area. For the sake of institutional memory and issues that go on in the ministry, let's not underestimate the importance of the civil service and the role they play in the development of our country. Because you see, ministers come, ministers go. Political parties come, political parties go. But it is the civil servant who sits there right through all this. And he must be able to make sure that at any given time, institutional memory and other issues are in place.
Okay.
And we never talk about them, even though actually
But he's right.
they are the brain box of the whole.
But every day, the media were always fixated with the politicians.
Yes, and actually, it is time.
But they really are not the problem. If you get to find out what really
I'm not
happens.
even saying it's a problem. It's they are the challenge.
Yeah, because for example, we're talking about leakages financially. I mean, those who do the computations at the Accountant General's department, who do all the leakages, etc. They are the normal.
Let me tell you something. Just take a walk through. You are a journalist. Just take a walk through the posh areas of Accra, the East Legons, the cantonments.
And see who owns them,
and find out how many politicians have houses there.
there are a lot of them.
Are you sure? You'll be very amazed. And see the people who own houses in all
maybe
the
a chief director somewhere. Maybe it's amazing.
No,
Yeah,
but I'm
that's
telling
true.
you the truth.
But that's true.
That fits into what he's telling you, that the real people who are the showboys are the people behind.
But it means that we need to do a lot more. Okay, now I want us to look at three things. I believe that these are going to be critical to public opinion on how government is performing or how government looks. We're talking about the directive or perhaps the announcement that there will not be increments in minimum wage. Is it minimum wage or public sector wages, etc. for this year? Okay, I also want to say, and how do we deal with it as a country? Because we need to tighten our belts. I start with you.
You know, the president came out with this is 10%, and then challenge people. So they found a clever way of making sure that everybody goes by 10%. I think that if you are a government and you want peace and you want people to work, sit down with them and open up, let them know, sit down with them, find out, manage them properly. But if you come with a fiat, it's a huge problem. I'm not surprised that
you think it's a wrong move?
No, it's a wrong move. I'm not surprised that organized labor has kicked against it. They will kick against it. You see, you must let people understand you and move you. That's what I was telling you about vision. If you have a vision, let people buy into that vision. In fact, they'll even give 100% of their salary to you.
What you're saying is in the textbooks, making people buy into your. That's textbook.
But I'm telling you,
that's not the practicality of what confronts government each day.
But a good leader, if you're a good leader, you can make it and you can do it. When people believe in you, and believe that, well, this guy is telling me the truth, and that he's really sincere, they will sacrifice, and you'll be very surprised. I'll tell you one reason. Do you remember in 2009 when NDC first came into power? Okay, President Kufuor had done some increments. You remember? You asked him what the workers did. You know what? The workers, even though we're going to benefit, some even 30%, some 20%, some 10%, some 15%, they say, oh, please, we think that, hold on, it's going to give a problem to the incoming government. We don't need it. But they were going to benefit. So why are they suddenly saying that, well, I will not agree? You see, it's the way you go about it, the way you manage it. It's not as if it has not happened in this country. Do you remember in 2001, for example, when President Kufuor came into power, people voluntarily reduced the prices of their goods? Do you remember that?
I remember
Kantamanto did, Bosokai did, many places, workers, ordinary people. People were willing not to even take salary increments because they believed in the leader at that time that this person is sincere. So let us help him. It's about how you go about some of these things.
Okay.
I think that I hear him, and actually what he said is true, but I don't think it had anything to do with the leadership style of President Kufuor, because he hadn't been a leader for any period of time. He's
a personality, I believe.
Well,
I'm not here to speak for Mr. Nito.
There was what happened was that there was a change of government. The change had come about.
And it was euphoric.
Yes. And the change had come about.
So the euphoria was sweeping through.
Yes. And for a couple of months, Kantamanto reduced their prices. It is not something that is the norm. Now people negotiate, and they negotiate hard for their benefits. I agree with him, though, on a certain aspect, because I think that whether to test the ground or to see what happened, the announcement of this, I believe, was premature. Because it comes across almost as a fiat, which is the word he used, or an imposition. And when it comes to these type of things, you need to be getting consensus before the announcement. So you had to do all the negotiations and go through all the process before you would even make it come across as organized labor saying, look, we will not agree, we've agreed that due to this, that, or the other, this is what our position is. And it can still be done in by, even if there has to be a point where the amount of the increment is nowhere close to, for example, the rate of inflation. The organized labor might decide, okay, look, this time round, we'll take 1% or 2%.
And that's what he's suggesting, roundtable.
Exactly. And as for the Jojo, if you try to get round it, just by virtue of the fact that yes, we have increased your salary and everybody can see that your salary has been increased, it's not going to be enough. You really have to bring everybody on board. And I don't. I
keep saying this thing though, because for people around me who were pre-single spine, enjoying the salaries that they were very much dissatisfied, saw huge increments, but still not satisfied. So I don't know how, perhaps maybe, I don't know.
No, it's the implementation, because people are getting everything wrong.
No, but people now receive better pay than they were.
Of course.
Better. I mean, seriously. Okay, but the second issue I want us to look at is this thorny subject about utility price increments, really. I mean, it's something that the government will have to grapple with during the year.
That's what I'm saying. You announce a utility price increase, even when the workers and the whole of Ghana, you had just announced utility price increase about a month or two ago, and people were all against it. You know, then you come out in the budget and say, well, no salary increase, and the next thing they hear is utility price increases.
Well, it's not government per se, it's the PRC, and we have to get all those perspectives right.
You see, we are in this nation. You can't run away. If election year government is able to ensure that there are no utility price increase, then suddenly you say it's not government. Who's going to believe you? Nobody will believe you. So after that one, you can only tell it to the Marines in the sea. Nobody will believe you if government says we don't have a hand in it. I mean, we all know that government appointed them, and they are not as independent as every government wants us to believe. Whether it's MPP, whether it's NDC, whether it's CPP, we know they are not as independent. If they were truly very independent, and government itself was making due its promises to pay the difference in terms of what they take back, then I can accept that people should bear with them. But two, that's the first thing. That's the government. Secondly, when you come and increase utility prices and you say you give me better service, and I'm not seeing that better service, I will have a problem. When you come back to tell me the same thing. Because I remember in 2009, when this same utility people, electricity, water, they wanted to increase, they came to us, called the finance committee, called other committees, and they were preaching to us how they needed to have 100% so that they can be efficient, and they were promising. At the end, ultimately, they got it. I tell you, the situation even became worse. The same thing happened in this particular instance that they were looking for when they got the 78%. They gave the same promises. Things have not improved. So why should people be paying for other people's inefficiency? I'll give you one example. What we call lost water. When the water is pumped, from the source, either at Bong or Wija, about 30% gets lost straight away. Is it my fault that I should be paying for that? Electricity. 30 to 40% of people don't pay their electricity bills, or they're not able to collect electricity, or their revenues get lost. Is it my fault that I should be paying? Because you cannot do your work? No.
Okay.
So that's the problem that we have. So for me, I think that I disagree with this increment. And if I were government, I don't think that should be the first news.
I keep saying that the government keeps telling us that the PRC is independent. And what the PRC said was, well, there was an increment, and there were agitations. A committee was put in place. They also put in their PECs, and the PECs, there were still agitations. They were reduced. And then it was agreed by all stakeholders that we should use the automatic adjustment formula. And by virtue of that logic, January, that's the beginning of the quarter, it starts.
Well, that is, I think, if there was something that has been done that is outside what that agreement was...
So far, nothing has been done outside. It's just pure agreement.
Yes.
But it doesn't sit well with public opinion.
But, well, yes. I think it's important for the government to do its PR on this properly, because as a government, we have to show that this was the agreement, this is it, so that public opinion actually understands that at the time when we negotiated it, this is what was agreed, and we are only implementing what has been agreed by all. That way, it moves away from government trying to use a back door to bring in tariffs which they couldn't get in the first place, because that's the public perception, and that is not the case. I think as a country we are growing and we are learning, and some lessons take a while to sink in, some don't. One classic example: look, if you increase petrol 40 years ago, your government will be changed, even sometimes militarily, because of increased price of petrol. In campaigns in the 92, 96, 2000, 2004, people used jerry cans and showed that, look, petrol price has gone up, and government suffered for it. Now, even though petrol is an issue and whatnot, people more understand a bit that, look, you cannot expect government to pay for petrol completely. Yes, some subsidies, but you will still have to pay. So,
but still the decision is unpopular.
Yes, but with a little bit more understanding. And with time, as we get this thing, we will come to realize that as we are now being classified as a lower middle income economy and etc., there are certain things that, even though income distribution is an issue, there are certain things that we will not get per se as easy. And we will have to start paying for certain things. Utilities is one of them. Let's be frank. Utility prices are high. I have no problem. And as a social democratic, coming from a social democratic party, you are looking to make sure that at least the people who are at the lower end don't suffer as much as others. Having said that, we have also reached a point where we must know how we use things. I don't have a problem with the increments, but I have a problem perhaps with the effort being made to deal with wastage. Because it should go hand in hand with serious, well-organized tax forces.
Now, why don't we get it done then?
Well,
sometimes it beats the mind.
It's on the drawing board. Well, you see, and the problem is, it's on the drawing board. If people are looking at it, but region by region, we must be going out there.
Wrap up for me then.
Electricity, are you paying properly? Is there an illegal connection? Water, who has an illegal tank? Blah blah blah, and it's being dealt with. People are being fined to solve this problem. You see, because at the same time, while you are paying, that somebody is paying the
I grew up in a neighborhood in Ashaiman. The more you increase people's ability to undertake illegal connections. All right. And so because it's a very highly populated area.
No, it's not just Ashaiman, it's everywhere.
Oh, everywhere? No,
yes.
it won't happen in East Legon.
I am saying that East Legon is everywhere. Take it from me. I live there. I'm telling you, it happens everywhere.
It should be all.
What people do, it will amaze you.
You have to check.
This nation of ours, what people do, it will amaze you. The big guns, those you call big companies.
Yeah, they do it bigger. They do it bigger.
They are worse than the little people you see.
That for me is the key.
Okay.
The wastage.
Okay, the gentleman who just ended the talk this morning on the AM Talk is Alex Segbefia. Used to be the chairman of NDC UK Ireland. Okay.
That's true.
I'm sure in the next reshuffle he will come back.
Yeah, he's supposed to come back in the next reshuffle. We're still waiting for his position.
We hear his name is on.
Okay, and Alex Segbefia is former deputy chief of staff, and we also have had in the studio Dominic Nitawo. He's also a member of parliament, but also the deputy minority leader. And what we're being told is that Monday they're all going to converge through the power of this very gentleman and 79 others who are also members of parliament. They are recalling their colleagues by force. But that's been it. We've been discussing very interesting issues this morning. Please get interactive as always, and I have the page Joynews on TV and also 1760 the short code. Bye-bye.